Okay. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We are back. Today we're going to be looking at continuing in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra. We are this week.
Make sure you're presenting.
This week we're looking at two chapters, Leviticus 19 and 20. There are many different commands in these two chapters. I think we'll probably go through a lot of these. There's much to discuss and think about within these chapters. Many things that we can still be doing today. You're not dealing with, sacrifices and things like this. Basically, kind of just everyday living commands that we see within these two chapters that we're able to apply to our lives, and even more so the underlying principles that lie inside of these many of these commands, which we'll also deal with as well. But looking at just the first two verses, kind of to set the stage for what we're going to be dealing with, where it says, "And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am holy." So when we look at that in and of itself, we have to first of all, when we just look at that, we can say, even if we don't know exactly what it means to be holy, if we don't actually know what holiness is, Yahweh says, "For I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am holy." So we can kind of connect it to the character of the Most High. He's saying, when we think about this concept, this idea of holiness, or as the scriptures say, set apart, probably. Yeah, be set apart. For I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am set apart. Which, it's not wrong, but I think that it's kind of general, non-specific, to say the least, just to say set apart. And I guess even holiness can actually be kind of abstract till we kind of investigate and see what it actually even means to be holy. The word holy. Go ahead.
He's somebody pulling that.
Oh,
Don't pull the laptop down on himself.
What are you doing?
Yeah, he's about to pull the laptop for the phone on himself.
I told you he's been reaching for everything he can get. And he don't realize the extent of how much reaching he does.
Okay. Yeah. I understand.
You want me to give you a cup of coffee?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so
I have creamer.
holy.
Last time.
The word holy or set apart is kadosh. Kadoshim is holy ones.
I'm good.
Where it says that the children of Israel are to be holy ones as Yahweh is holy. We see in Kedoshim, we see the root, which is the kuf, the dalet, and the sheen, which is kadash, which is to be, to make, pronounce, or observe as clean or pure. When we think about holiness, the idea of cleanness or pureness, or actually wholeness, completeness, is all things that go along with the idea of Kadash, of what is holy. We have to think about it in terms of, again, if we are being kind of told to be like unto the Most High, you think about His, what purity is. It's without spot, right? Without any type of blemish. In terms of moral character. We think about something that's pure, is something that's untainted, something that's undefiled, something that's hallowed, right? So we get all of these things inside of the word. Gosh. This camera. I'm just gonna switch to low def.
So it's acting up on you now. So it's acting up on you now.
Okay, so when we think about the word that we know as holy, that's kind of we see in the scriptures as set apart, dedicated, consecrated. All these things kind of carry the same kind of thought process, where if we're talking about set apart ness in regards to Yahweh, is going and talking about the character of Yahweh, which includes purity, right? So we will be set apart for purposes of purity, set apart and devoted to purposes of pureness or holiness. We can't just say set apart and just leave it as set apart, because I can be set apart to just being a
heathen or something.
right,
like that.
or anything, any kind of impure thing. It's interesting with the word that means holy. A form of the word kadashah is prostitute. Well, a prostitute is dedicated to many different Johns. Well, I shouldn't say John because that's, but users
Users.
right? But at that time, they're dedicated, right? And then they just move on to the next one, right? But that is a dedication, and it's the same root word with kadash. Kadashah can either be referring to a prostitute, or also it could be referred to a male person that does those kind of things, right? Either one. So just to say set apart, we have to have the idea of holiness that's connected to the set apartness. And I think Yahweh fixes that. The Most High fixes that when he says, for Israel, you shall be holy, for I am holy. You shall be set apart. You shall be set apart for pure purposes, because I am set apart for pure purposes.
So it's not just a regular set apart to anything.
It's not just general. It's
Exclusivity.
there's holiness is connected to it.
To Yahweh.
And I think even when I found here, when we look at this, the word, the Semitic languages, have two separate original forms of the root for kadash. This word here, kadash, the root. One signifies pure and devoted, as in the Akkadian kadistu, and in Hebrew, kadesh, which is holy. The word describes something or someone. The other signifies holiness as a situation or as an abstract, as in Arabic, al-Qudus. So these words, they kind of look similar, I guess, just because of their Semitic roots. The most holy or most pure. In the Hebrew, the verb kadash and the word kadesh combine both elements, the descriptive and the static. So in other words, you have the idea of devotedness or set apartness and holiness combined. When we look at the ancient Hebrew pictographs, when we look at the Kuf, we have the sun at the horizon. So the sun at the horizon signifies the gathering of light, the concentration of light, the condensing of a light just comes together to a place right down at the horizon. So you have this coming together, you have this concentration to the door, which is the dalet, the door flap, the 10th flap, which signifies movement and also signifies in and out. So you have this gathering, this concentration, this coming together through the door. And also if we add tightness to the door. We add tightness to the door because you have the two front teeth, which is the sheen, which is pressure or to bite or to press, right? So if you have this coming together, going to the door, and you add tightness to the door, it caused me to immediately think about something that Yeshua said in Matthew chapter 7. Look at that real quick. Matthew chapter 7. 13 and 14. Somebody read that. Matthew 17, 13 and 14.
17.
Did I say 17?
Yeah.
I meant to say 7. Matthew 7, 13 and 14.
Matthew 7, verse 13. Enter ye at the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go into thereat. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it.
Okay, so Yeshua is talking about this straight gate, this narrow way, this tight opening. Right? There's a tight opening. Even though there's a big gathering going on here and a condensing, it's almost as if there has to be a condensing in order to get through the door. The tight door, right? There has to be this condensing, this coming together, this squeezing to make it through this tight door. When we think about holiness, it's something that's focused, it's concentrated on a particular thing. In this regard, in this case, we're talking about Yahweh.
It's like, I was thinking about like sorting. Sorting, like, you have
like sword fighting.
Category.
Oh, no. Sorting.
You have a category of things that are clean, a category of things that are unclean, a category of things that are holy, or kadosh, a category of things that aren't holy. You know what I mean? You're either on one side of the fence or you're on the other side of the fence.
Yes, there's definitely sorting involved in.
There's no such thing as being half holy and half.
No, it's definitely and again, so that's what we think about the tightening and the squeezing. It's not loose. It's not just whatever. There's specific criteria that are involved in holiness that's necessary to make it through the door.
And if you don't have that, then you don't have this criteria, then you're not through the door.
No, that leads to destruction. You look at what Yeshua said, enter into the straight gate, which we can say the straight gate is holiness. The straight gate is righteousness. The straight gate is Yeshua. Yeshua is the door, right? Anybody who comes any other way is a thief and a robber, right? There's only one way in, and that's through Yeshua, which is, it's pretty narrow when you think about it, right? Okay, so that's just a picture of holiness. When we think about holiness, right? It's that narrow path. So
I think that did you read the verse yet?
1 through 3.
19. 19, 1 through 3.
Yeah.
If you read. I think that one of the things that I talk about is that it's a commandment to be holy. You know what I mean? He says, you shall be kadosh. So it's actually a positive commandment to be holy. It's not like it's some, it's not like it's a choice in the matter.
There's something that when you think about positive commands, you can keep a negative command by not doing anything.
Yeah.
If the commandment says thou shalt not murder, I'm not a murderer. I'm automatically fulfilling that command because I have to do something in order to murder.
You have to actually kill somebody to murder someone.
Right. So when you say thou shalt not, where that's a negative command, I have to actually do something in order to do it. I don't have to do anything and I can be keeping it. Yeah. Where a positive command where I have to actually do something in order to be keeping it, where that's a perfect example. And we see other examples also in this same chapter of positive commands. There's many negative ones where that, again, command that you can fulfill by not doing anything. You can be keeping many commands simultaneously without even doing anything.
Don't steal.
But this one in particular is, yes, a positive command where you must do something.
And the reason is that Yahweh is holy. It says, for I am holy.
When we look at this is just a little bit more about holiness where we keep going. The definition of holy, properly whole or entire or perfect in a moral sense. So we think about the idea of Yahweh and we think about the creation of man, where man was created in a perfect sense. Yahweh created Adam and Hava, and the thing that he created was good. They were without sin. They were without any type of, they were whole. They were complete, right? They were perfect, pure in heart, right? Pure in heart and in deed, right? Until you can even say they were free from sinful affections, right? Until the thought that seed was planted inside, which caused them to cause that seed of sin and disobedience to grow. But from the beginning, he was dealing with a whole, entire, whole, I'm saying W-H-O-L-E, whole, entire being. So sin takes away from that wholeness, right? If wholeness is purity and, that connectedness to an agreement with the character of Yahweh, if that's what wholeness is, right, then sin, picks away at that. Sin causes us, of course, to be less than whole, right? It brings in that those imperfections, right? When we think about what sin is, sin, of course, is a transgression of the law, which is the character of Yahweh, the transgression of those things which cause us to emulate the character of Yahweh. When we do less than that, right, we're operating in characteristics that are contrary to the one who is whole, the one who is perfect, who is the Most High, right? So, looking at this chapter, we see these things that the Most High is calling for his people to do that causes us to actually walk out the character of Yahweh. Right? When we do these things that he talks about in this chapter, we will be doing, walking out things that causes us to walk in the character of Yahweh. Which is, okay, again, the Torah. Let me look at, I'll look at a couple verses before we go on with this. Is that First Peter 13. I think 24. First Peter chapter 1, verse 13. myself.
Would you read it?
Yeah, 13 through 23.
13. Okay. 23. So 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13. Wherefore gird up thy loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yeshua, Hamashiach Yeshua, as obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust in your ignorance, but as he which hath called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation, because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy. And if ye call on the Father, who without respect of persons judges according to every man's work, pass the time of your sojourning here in fear, for as much as ye know that ye were not redeemed with corruptible things, as silver and gold, from your vain conversation. Conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with precious blood of Hamashiach, as the Lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by him do believe in Yahweh, that raised him up from the dead and gave him glory, that your faith and hope might be in Elohim. 23, right?
Yeah.
Seeing ye have purified your souls and obeying the truth through the Spirit, and unfeigned love of the brethren, see that ye love one another with a pure heart fervently, being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, by the word of Yah, which liveth and abideth forever.
Okay, so when we look at this, and we see from what Peter has to say about it in terms of being holy, being set apart, because Yahweh is holy, Yahweh is set apart. But the difference is that we see that we're not just told actually to be set apart, right? But we also talks about what actually sets us apart, actually, that the sacrifice that Yeshua has made for us, right? And the spirit that's put inside of us that causes us to be able now to walk in these characteristics. For us to be able to have this clean heart that he speaks of is a result of our acceptance of what the Master Yeshua has done for us. But again, it gets back to walking out the character of Yahweh, which is the Torah, which is the laws, statutes, and commands of Yahweh, which when we do them, it causes us to walk out this brotherly love. So let's look at some of these things. James 1:21 says, therefore put away all filthiness and overflow of evil, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save our lives. Which that implanted word is that Holy Spirit, that spirit of holiness, that Ruach HaKodesh inside of us. Right? That thing that causes us and empowers us actually to put away that filthiness, that overflow of evil, all those things that are contrary to wholeness. Okay, so let's look at some of these things back in Leviticus. Starting off with verse, because there's so many, instead of just reading the whole thing, we'll just look at them, one at a time, because there's just so many. Some connected, some not connected. It's just verse 3. Turn back to it. Verse 3, which says, each one of you should fear his mother and his father and guard my Sabbaths. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So it's interesting. I found it interesting, not only when we look at the Ten Commandments, but in other places, there's a connectedness to honoring or reverencing your parents, your mother and father, with the keeping of Yahweh's Sabbaths. One thing that came to my mind was Exodus 31 and 16. Exodus 31 and 16. Which says, and the children of Israel shall guard the Sabbath, to perform a Sabbath throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant. The thing that seems to be connected there for me is throughout their generations, right? The only way that you can do something throughout the generations is this thing's being passed on from the parents, and then the children are honoring or respecting the parents and the thing that's been taught to them, which is the customs of Yahweh. That was, we're looking at Leviticus 19:3.
Yeah.
But we're looking at it, connecting that to Exodus 31 and 16.
Okay.
Where it says, and the children of Israel shall guard the Sabbath, to perform the Sabbath throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant, a forever covenant, this thing that's forever throughout your generations. So again, the only way that something can be, that can continue on through generations, is for that thing to be able to be passed down. So not only me teaching it to my children, but the children honoring the thing that they learned from their parents and continuing that on, and teaching their children as a result of being taught.
I was talking to another mom recently, and she was saying that, one thing she's noticed just in her time she's been in the faith is that, kids don't seem to stick around. Like, they grow up and then they just decide to be heathens like all the rest of the people their age.
Yeah. So what that causes me to think about, is the fact that
you've been around for seeing a whole bunch of kids grow up and become adults, right? You've been around long enough.
I mean, not really. I haven't seen people grow necessarily up in it. Like, I see people come and go, but children, no.
You haven't seen children grow up, like a new generation come up.
Oh, you know what? No, I'll take that back. I've seen with us, and yeah, when I first met her, I mean, probably 8 years now, and his parents involved in it. Now he's following through, and he does study and stuff. But
that's good.
I think the major thing is like the children have to be around other people. It's like got to be a community thing.
Can't just be.
And then the children can't be out in the world with these other people, because I feel like it would be confusing unless they got a strong spirit. And if the parents are not raising them, and if they're in school, that's tough.
It's hard because you want to be like everybody else.
Exactly.
that's a natural
It's like
thing.
being thrown to the wolves. It's like, all these temptations and lessons. Children, growing up, easily influenced by everything. And so, yeah.
Right.
It's
it's hard for us in the way that we live, where we teach our children a certain way, and then we send them off to the enemy to help and partner with us in raising our children, right? Where I was explaining this to somebody before, and there was a lot of resistance because somebody from the outside they don't understand the concept.
What are you talking about? Homeschooling?
Well, I'm talking about not homeschooling. So if you're teaching your children a certain way, and then you send them off to who I'm saying is the enemy, and who are essentially partnering with you in rearing your children, because they have authority over your children, influence, and they see them more than you do, right?
They talk to them more than
you form a partnership with these strangers.
I don't think I ever thought about that.
And that's what it is. You need to think about it in that way.
I never thought about it.
They help you raise your children, right? So you're teaching them one way. It's almost like having having parents that are divorced.
Yeah.
Where you live one way
here, and then
at one parent's house, and another way at the other. You live one way when you're here, then you live another way when you go off to school with your rest of your brothers and sisters and your part-time parents, who's your teachers and your principals, right? It's hard to live a life like this and expect to have favorable outcome at the end, because it's pretty much the kid just chooses whichever way he likes.
Exactly.
Whichever one seems the best. Everybody's having a good time over here with this way.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do that thing.
Right. Because that's what they're presented with, especially if they have to live it. Like, we're talking about being separate, being holy. The goal is to always be on the right side, being on this side where you're away from those things. But then when you kind of force, whether you go to school or whatever, be around the people that's doing completely different, that's conflicting, especially the child as it is growing up. It's rough. I think that's the.
But that is interesting, because this is kind of the first generation that I've seen where people have actually been homeschooling their kids. It's very people are tired of seeing the effects of their kids being in school, and so now they're taking their kids out. Like, even with our 20-year-old son, he went to school, you know what I mean? And all of his cousins all went to school. And so now it's like, you saw what happened there. Now you are just trying to do it better. And we've seen a whole generation of kids. Just they got taught in this, and then as soon as they was able to go out and do what they wanted to do, they went out and did whatever they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Because that's what everybody else is doing. That's what they want to do. Not even because they hate Yahweh. It don't have anything to do with hating him. It's just, in essence, they're showing they hate him by doing these things, but it's not like an animosity relationship.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's passive hate.
It's passive. It's passive hate. It's not like I hate God, so I'm gonna go out here and disobey him. It's just, that's what I see, and that's what I want to do, and that's what I like to do. Like, it don't have nothing to do with anger or whatever, with how they was raised. Some people get angry with how they're raised and they just turn on it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But in this case, these people, they're not angry with how they was raised. It's just they want to be like everyone else,
If they're around it, yeah.
Because that's what they was around for so much.
think that's the
I don't
hardest
know if
thing.
Christian has something. He kind of unmuted himself for a minute.
You trying to say something, Chris?
No, I reconnected.
Oh. Okay. So what I was gonna say was when you have this kind of it's interesting with some of these commandments when you have this, and we'll see a connection later that's brought out by scripture. But when we have this certain situation where we talk about the children falling away, where a child being raised in the way and then going out.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like how we talked about. When we see here, it's kind of like this commandment to honor your father and mother, right, is broken by you falling away. So whatever sin it is that you do, you got that sin on you. But if you're raised in this way, right, and then you fall away, then you got this one on you as well in terms of this.
Trumping of the charges.
I think that the Torah actually does that. And then when it talks about how when you break one command, you've broken them all.
Yeah.
Where
you just start.
Right. It's like a domino effect where you don't literally break them all, but you might as well have been guilty of them all. But it's possible, it seems, that you're breaking multiple ones at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yahweh is dealing with here reverence of the parents and kind of couples it with keeping his Shabbat, his Shabbatot, his Sabbaths, his holy times. We saw back we didn't read it in 31, but I believe in 31 it talks about the fact that the Sabbath is a sign that Yahweh puts on his people, right? And then he goes on to say, here what we read in 16. So again, it brings this up multiple places for what he is qualifying as holiness, right? Verse 4 through 7 I thought was interesting. I'd like to get a couple comments on that. Verse 4 says, do not turn to idols. Oh, wait. I'll read that, but I really want to look at 6, 7, and 8. Do not turn to idols or make for yourselves molten gods. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Now, when you offer a sacrifice of peace offering to Yahweh, you shall offer it so that you may be accepted. It shall be eaten the same day you offer it and the next day. But what remains until the third day shall be burned with fire. So, if it is eaten at all on the third day, it is an offense. It will not be accepted. Everyone who eats will bear his iniquity, for he has profaned the holy thing of Yahweh, and that person shall be cut off from his people. Wow. That just went left like real quick, didn't
This
it?
is a peace offering, right?
Right. We're not talking about a sin offering. We're not talking about something that's making atonement for your soul. We're talking about something that you're offering unto Yahweh. Peace offering is not like a sin situation. You're partaking of it, right? You can eat it for 2 days, but what remains on the third day, burn. But if it is eaten, if you do eat it, now you're cut off from the people. You're cut off. That seems extreme, don't
It to me, it shows how he makes that distinction between common, things that are common and things that are clean, and how it's like there's that barrier, that door, that strengthened door between them, where it could literally go from being clean to being unclean very quickly.
So you're saying that could be an example of the tightness?
Yeah, it's an example of the tightness of the door. I mean, at 1 minute, just like food, 1 minute you can eat, and then the next minute it's the Day of Atonement, you can't eat or you're cut off. 1 minute you can eat some bread, and then the next minute if you eat the bread, you know what I mean, you're cut off because you're eating leaven.
It's just
eating.
like the time frames.
Mm-hmm.
It's just real interesting to me because it's like you got these 2 days to do this, and on the third day, like you said, to go extreme. If you eat it to the point where you what you said you cut off.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many things that we can find in scripture where you're always saying you're cut off.
Right.
This is one of them.
Right. So let's see, what is that? Yeah, this sacrifice offering a peace offering. See, my mind go into a scientific kind of sense, like, because it's like, okay, this offering, it don't say specifically, but I'm thinking it's maybe something. It could be meat, flesh, or whatever. But then if we think about food, it goes bad. And then fungus and now, the elements start to take it over. And that will make you unclean to eat that type of stuff. And then I think the significance gets greater because it is a peace offering. Because it don't say necessarily that any food that you eat past 3 days, you be cut off. It's particularly this offering. So we know that this is holy, this is separate, this is different than anything else you would eat. So it's like you're offering this to me, and I'm thinking like on that third day, he's like, on a scientific sense, it's bad. In this time frame, you eat it, discard of it.
Well, they didn't have refrigeration either.
Right. I'm thinking.
Even if you put it in a refrigerator, you don't want to eat it after so many days.
Right.
So you looking at it in terms of saying it's probably going to start rotting by the third day anyway.
Yeah, because I'm thinking for him to go that extreme with it. I mean, not only I think it's more than Misa'ah. I'm thinking because a lot of the scriptures, when the Most High commands us to do things, real logical for our body, physiological, and all that stuff, nutrition and stuff. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Mm-hmm. It's like if you didn't get to partake in the offering on the first day, you got the second day to take. You might have been not feeling well, ill, so you get that time. But in the third day, if you can't make it,
you get extra days.
The
third day, no, too much.
Right, for that particular offering. That's just how I look at it. Just what I'm perceiving like.
Well, I think that both thought processes are valid, where we see that. So you kind of put in you basically defining the parameters. We know that there are parameters, and whatever they are, whatever Yahweh's reasoning is, it is what it is. It's going to be that.
Right.
But now you're kind of defining the parameters and saying, well, it has to do with, just the thing being old and becoming rotten. Is the reason why there's that switch where it goes from this thing that's holy to this thing that is profane, and this thing that literally qualifies to have you be cut off. Which I think, I don't have the answer. I don't know. I can't sit up here and say, well, definitively why that is. We can see that it is, and then we can look at it and say, well, it makes sense that it would be that. Although they did have salt.
They had salt, yeah.
They did have salt, so it was really able to cure meat.
They could jerk it.
I don't know if jerking it was easy. I don't know if that's the right terminology.
I don't know if you jerk the sacrifice, you know what I mean? You know? You gonna jerk the sacrifice, you know?
Christian did, so I don't know if he was gonna say.
Oh, was you trying to say something, Chris? No. But I think that, again, both points I think are valid in terms of the fact that Yahweh is saying that he wants it to be this way. It adds credence to the thought process that he has parameters. He wants things to be a certain way. He don't deviate from that. And that way is going to be tight. It's not going to be loose. It's not going to be like the world. It's going to be confined in a certain way. And then we can look at that. We can look at that thing and then see how it makes sense.
The thing about this world is that, and I can see it as I get older more and more, is that the world doesn't want that distinction to be made between what's clean and what's unclean.
No, everything is just.
They want everything to be common, Mm-hmm. And I just see that more and more just as I get older and as I learn.
Well, not only you just getting older, but things are getting worse.
I guess so. Maybe as I'm getting older, things are getting worse.
I think it's more so things are getting worse when you're getting older.
It's just crazy to me, And then whenever you try to make a distinction and you say, no, this is going to be set apart for this, then there's an offense that happens. Mm-hmm. It offends people when you are separate from them, or when you try to separate yourself or your children or whatever from them. You know what I mean? It becomes offensive.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, this is the life that we must deal with. We can't allow the fact that the world is offended by the things that we do. We can't allow that to cause us not to do the things, right? Because Yahweh is calling for us to be holy, right? And he defines his holiness. He defines his set apartness a certain way.
And these things are physical things that he defines as set apart.
Right. He gives us this Torah, which causes us to do physical things. But these physical things, again, are manifestations of his character. His character is not physical. His character is spiritual because he is spiritual. Yeah. But when we do these physical things, it causes us to walk in his character. But we're physical beings. We're human beings. Like we have to function in a physical way. So when we do these things and it causes people to be offended, we can't say, well, I don't want this person to be offended, so I'm not going to do this thing that Yahweh wants. Because now
you're putting that person.
You done made yourself an idol.
You put that person
and their feelings above your Elohim.
Like when we started our little Hebrew co-op, it's just me, the wife, and Angela. When we started it, it was kind of like, how far out do we want to go as far as inviting people in, and so we just made it us to start out, because it's kind of like as you broaden it, as you know what I mean, as you invite more different views into it, things, it's no longer at the same level of set apartness as it was before. We have like another group that we go to, and there's all types of people, 5%ers, Israelites, I don't know, Muslim, just regular people, you know what I mean? Anti-Messianic Israelites. It's a lot of different views. So if we want to just have something where we're describing it as being a Hebrew co-op, like how do we make that definition? And then realizing that some people might be offended because it's like, why didn't we get the invite too, you know? But
yeah.
Can you say, like, all you can do is just say, well, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's a good start. I think eventually.
I mean, I'm just saying that it reminds me of that
out
because it's talking
with
about
the sneak attack.
Yeah.
the
But
sneak attack.
yeah, the sneak attack. Where you heck, you know, sometimes you can cause people to do things.
By your example.
Yeah, well, by your example, but it, you know, it could be high frequency where I'm having you do this thing, which is actually congruent with Torah, but maybe I'm not just calling it Torah, I'm just calling it just something that's nice to do, right? Where, you know, you're all doing these things. The difference is you're doing it purposefully and they're just doing it kind of passively.
Mhm.
They don't have
You don't have the understanding of why they're doing it, right? But you know, it's a good start.
It just reminded me that by saying about the whole, you know, making these distinctions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit last week, is the fact that we have to be able to get to a place where our light shines so bright that it's not influenced by the darkness. Yet, you know, but it's not that it don't go around the darkness,
This is not influenced.
but it's not influenced by the darkness. In fact, what it does is actually influence the darkness, as it should, as true light should do. So, you know, it's wise. If your light ain't shining like that, then it don't need to be mixed with darkness, because the darkness is going to overtake it. But the goal should be to have your light shine in such a way that that thing is like 1,000,000 lumens, right? That thing is on bright, right? And
It's lit. It's litty.
it's lit. Right to talk like a young person. It is so lit, right? That it just can't be dimmed or darkened. Right? It's not influenced by darkness, but it influences the darkness. So this is what Yahweh wanted for Israel to actually be. This is what he wants for his people to be. Not to be influenced by those things that are around, but to actually influence those that are around. Right? So he's giving us these physical examples of holiness and how we should be living, and examples of, you know, shining the light, examples of being set apart, examples of being dedicated to him. Okay, so when we look at verse 9, and 10. Verse 9 and 10 says, "Now when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very corners of your field." Somebody look that word up, corners. "Nor shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest, nor shall you glean your vineyard, nor shall you gather the fallen fruit of the vineyard. You shall leave them for the needy and for the stranger."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Hey,
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the corners is?
mouth.
Properly mount in a figurative sense. That is direction, region, extremity, and corner and quarter side.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, hold on to that. Okay, so reap the harvest of the land, But don't reap the corners of the field, nor gather the gleanings of your harvest. And then it says, glean the vineyard, but don't get the stuff that falls off the vine. Leave that. And of course, with the corners, and leave that for the needy and the stranger. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Okay, so we now how do we do this if we're not farmers? Like the spirit of this, right? What's the spirit of this, of these commands here? We don't farm. You know, we plant our seeds, we let our things grow. We benefit from those things. But the extremities or the outer portions of those things, those that fall off, what I guess would be it could be overabundance, but it could just be, okay, when I think about I got grapevines out there, right? So when I look at those grapevines, they're young, they're just maybe 4 or 5 years old. So I don't have many grapes that grow on. But stuff that falls, you know, whether it's wind or if it grows, like I'm saying that if you got a whole bunch, it gets to a place where you can't pick it all anyway, you know, it falls off, stuff falls off, but you're not picking that up according to this. But I'm saying it could be over an abundance, but it also could be you not kind of reaping it in a timely fashion.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so if say it grows and it just kind of over ripens and then falls, where you wasn't really paying attention to it. In this kind of a setting, it's saying, well, once you didn't pay attention to it in the first place and let it grow and fall, just let it be there, and then whoever comes back and just have it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm saying in terms of if we aren't doing this in terms of farming, what is the spirit of this, of these commands that we can be walking in now?
Everything I can think of off the top of my head, maybe it's just charitable work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to make it not in a pure physical sense.
Well, I mean, looking at this is, you know, it's definitely physical.
Yeah.
But you can do a thing. There could be a spirit of a thing but the thing is still just, it's a physical act that's being done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right? But we're talking about the underlying kind of spiritual significance that's beneath it. Because he's dealing with the needy. Right? Leave these things, the overflow, the corners, for the needy, those that need, and for the stranger. In other words, it's not like you got to set up, like you got a set apart thing, like I'm gonna grow this garden over here for the needy, but your thing that you're growing for your own self, parts of that, the corners, the edges, the extremities of that should be for them. So in other words, there's built-in provision. There should be built-in provision in your situation for the needy and for the stranger. It seems.
Like to consider them, like
you must consider them.
Yeah.
Not like I got this garden out here, and then I'm supposed to say, well, I'll make this other garden, and then the stuff that grows in that garden will be for for the poor and the needy. But a portion of what I'm making for myself should go to the needy.
Is
for the
this
stranger.
I mean, to me, like, I don't get into communism. I don't like communism. Sorry, I don't like it. But but is it kind of like that whole mindset of socialism? Like what I have isn't just for my own benefit, but the benefit of the community.
Well, that's what we just read.
I mean, it's a small portion of it. It's not like you're sharing a big, huge part of it. But what you have, like, you're not trying to just build up. So actually, if you have more, then more is going to be for the community. You know what I mean? If you have a bigger corner, and if you just have your little garden out here in our backyard, they're only going to get a little bit out of that because we didn't really get that much. But if you have like acreage, you know what I mean? Like more of that is going to go into helping the community.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, socializing what people have.
Yeah. That was a statement or?
No, I mean, it was kind of a statement / question. But...
What was the question part?
Well, I started out by saying that I'm not into this whole.
I know, but the problem with you saying that is that this thing that we're describing here is about community.
Yeah.
Community. Of you actually being commanded to actually be mindful of
others.
The people who can't deal for their own self.
Yeah.
The needy and for a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Which, we don't think about. We don't think about that. We think about ourselves.
You get your paycheck.
I gotta sit up here and I got to deal with what I got to deal with. I don't got time to think about, these other people, what they doing. They need to go out here and do something for themselves.
That's how the world.
That's how we think about things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Well, you need to go up there. I found myself looking at people's shoes that are asking for things. The first thing I do is look at their shoes.
You don't like out in the street, like homeless people.
If I see somebody who got some beat up shoes, then I feel sorry for that person. If I look at them and they got nicer sneakers than I got on, I don't feel as bad. Yeah. Not saying that that's right, but that's just what happens.
What if somebody gave them a nice pair of sneakers?
I guess I need
that day. They out of luck for Tony. You doing good. So
I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying that's what happens inside of my mind when I see these people. Mm-hmm. If they look regular, I feel like they doing all right.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be that needy to me because they got, you got shoes, they don't got holes in them. They clean, you know what I mean? You got a coat on, and a scarf and everything else. You got a backpack that's full of something.
They could be sitting under the bridge. Tony like, you good? Like, you better pass.
I'm just saying, but I'm saying all that just to say that, looking at this and thinking about these commands that y'all is giving, he called for us to actually, care about the needy. Well, we forget about the needy.
Right.
We forget about them. They're just a forgotten part of the society that we live in. They're over there. They're down there under the bridge. They got their little communities or whatever, and we don't see them, so we don't think about it.
Yeah. When I see a homeless person or someone that's on the street, I don't care who they are, what they do, I'm always sad for them.
That's good, son.
I try to give them a little more, but mom's
See, you always rolling the window up on them.
No, I'm trying to roll down the window. She's rolling up the window.
He's trying to take my change out of my car. Don't be his money. Be my Aldi quarters.
That's the gleaning that fell. Yeah, I'm messing with you.
I mean, it could be that.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have farms necessarily, but we got change.
Well, you know what, too? I'm looking at this because, all right, so thou shalt not glean. So these are the things that fell off in this situation.
Well, it's two things: the things that fell off, and also the corners.
The corners.
The corners didn't necessarily fall off.
Right, got you.
Both.
So that means that you already should have a sufficient amount for yourself.
Yeah, you will.
To not be greedy, like, you know, you are able to have enough for yourself. It's like I'm seeing, like, in terms of maybe greed, you know, because you're already blessed.
You have your own provision.
Yeah, the Most High is blessing you He brings forth the increase of whatever you got, and he's just saying, hey, since I'm blessing you with this and this, putting in provision, so no greed is on your spirit. Because if I'm thinking, like, you looking at this, if you go to the extent that you're gonna pick every grape up or whatever off the ground, consume for yourself, then that can go into other areas of your life.
That is greedy.
Yeah,
you sit up there, you picking up everything, the birds and drops.
Yeah,
stuff, and you sitting up there
right. So it's like,
pocket.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have, like, I mean, like, you know, it ties back to having a charitable heart and considering those who don't have, who might not have a great vineyard, and they like grapes. So it's like, hey, you know, you're like, hey, I'm gonna leave it out there for them. So it's like the Most High is blessing you, so it's like passing it forward. But, you know, it's like, and also key to me, you know, when we go to scriptures too, like when I read this part, it's always like, what do you call it? You know it's a community, but it just gives balance. It's like those around you are not without. Mm-hmm. Even though you're blessed with something, they can still take part in your blessing the Most High gave you. And it like trickles down like that.
It's a trickle down.
Yeah.
I just thought about that because with like the tax package, they cut the taxes for the corporations and stuff and hope that they'll pay their employees more and that they'll increase the number of workers but it would work if they had that thought process. But in our society, they're going to want to make more money because that makes the CEOs look better. We're more profitable than we was last year. You know what I mean? But if we hire more people, now we're not going to look as profitable.
Right.
If we pay our people more, we're not going to look as profitable anymore. So the trickle down effect doesn't work because of our greed.
Yeah.
Well, humanity's greed, I should say, not our greed. We're not the ones up there.
Well, it's the same reason why. So
I should let Hisky have my little Aldi quarter.
Yeah. It's the same reason why communism doesn't work, because people agree. Not because in and of itself is something that's bad, because when we look at you know how the scriptures was, you wasn't having these people who was just out here just destitute, who was in the community, who was just destitute. Everybody was able to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, people are following, you know, had the right heart and were following, you know, what Torah allotted for them to have. If you think about, I go when I drive around out here, you know, on the job that I'm on, I drive around and I see these big, huge fields. Big, huge fields of, produce fields. Just huge. Imagine if these people was actually doing that. What we're talking about, stuff that fall off in the corners, the extremities. You know what I mean? If everybody did that,
yeah, you wouldn't have the homeless as hungry as they are.
There'd be food.
Yeah,
all over the place.
and then the crazy thing too, like when you watch documentaries about food and GMO stuff, that sometimes will come up. These farmers markets or wherever they, grocery stores, food a day or two old, it's in a dumpster. Instead of having a group of people, hey, it's about to go old, expire, can still be eaten. Hit the streets.
They'd rather throw it away than give it.
Exactly. To the extent that they'll put barbed wire around the dumpsters.
And try to keep people out.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though. It's like logistics with it, because if someone ate old food from Whole Foods per se, and they got sick,
Yeah, they try to sue them or
they
something.
can now sue Whole Foods and say that they made them sick.
Well, you can put a disclaimer on
I'm
it.
just saying.
Eat at
Eat at your own risk.
You know what I mean? We try to look out.
Again, that's the society that we live in, where everybody's
People sue.
always looking to get over on
Right.
somebody else. It's all about me. I want to get paid. I sit up here, and that's why McDonald's started putting that caution sound in their coffee.
Because they got tired of people suing them.
Somebody sat there and sued them because they got burnt with some hot coffee.
Meanwhile, your coffee's hot.
Right.
It's supposed to be hot.
If it was cold, they'd have been mad.
I know.
They'd
They'd be
been,
like, you giving me this cold coffee.
But they clumsy.
And then
Get
McDonald's
burnt.
got paid.
Yeah.
So it's a
So
mind.
that's the next commitment, though.
It's a mind frame that we have to be able to
You
get
shall not
into.
deal falsely. Neither lie one to another.
Yeah.
Essentially, you getting burnt with hot coffee that you knew was hot when you took it. They didn't pour it on you. You poured it on yourself accidentally. It's dealing false. And I have to catch myself because, like when something happens, I got to be like, okay, I have to, you know what I mean? Like, you got to think about it sometimes because, well, I know I do at least. It's because I don't want to accidentally deal falsely. You know what I mean? Whenever I'm working with people or I'm dealing with people in the public realm. I mean, because it's kind of easy. I mean, I don't want to say it's easy, but circumstances happen where, people can justify things very easily.
Yeah. So when we look at these things, we see that Yahweh's character, we see a picture of Yahweh's character through these commands. We see kindness and mercy in Yahweh's commandments. Right? We see that Yahweh's character, something that we can connect to Yahweh's character being that chesed, that loving kindness and mercy. We see that built in to his commandments. So we look at this idea of leaving something for the needy and for the stranger. We look at this idea of stealing or dealing falsely or lying with one another. Swearing falsely by my name. So as to profane the name of Yahweh. Oppressing your neighbor, right? Or robbing. Wages of a hired man are not to remain with you all night until morning. Right? My job does that.
All of our jobs do that.
Your job is a little bit better though, because what happens if you don't get paid on like Wednesday?
I don't know what
What happens?
I don't know what happens. I know that it's in the agreement that we must have our money by the end of the day on Wednesday. By the end of the work day on Wednesday. But I'm saying that they hold it because I found out that they actually get the money on Tuesday.
Okay.
So they could give it to us on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh
But
man.
you holding my money overnight.
Yeah.
Until the next day.
Right.
You breaking the Torah, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, he did find out he could get his check a day early.
Oh, because we left, we were going out of town. So I was like, could I get my check early? You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't gonna be here on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I gotta wait a whole week until I get until after a long weekend to get my money.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no problem. We get the checks on Tuesday.
Okay.
They're here by midday Tuesday, so
Yeah.
I'll just give it to you. They hold it to the last minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're holding them wages overnight until morning.
Breaking the Torah, man.
They don't care. They don't care nothing about that Torah.
But you know what, too? Back, from what we hitting on, like I said, like a lot of these commandments is based on, it's balance, keeping in harmony with your body, relationships, not only with Most High, but with each other. And this is one thing that keeps your community in harmony, because this ensures that nobody goes hungry. So what does this also alleviate? People wanting to steal from you.
Exactly.
People, wanting to plot or do different things against you, because eating won't be an issue in your community.
Because everybody eating.
Exactly. That's like you're providing that necessity, or your community, and that keeps, at least that aspect of everybody legit. It's like, okay, you hungry? All right, you got the corner of the fields to go to within this community, so you're never hungry.
There's no reason to steal. So if you steal now, you
yeah.
Now
you didn't have to
being
steal.
greedy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
I never put the two things together about not stealing and that you already have provision made anyways.
right, because I look at it as just balance. It's like if the Most High going to command these certain things, so not only for us to consciously not do it or to do it, the situation that's built around us, our relationships, how we interact, is built on top of that too, to make it easier, or something that that something that we should be able to follow in an orderly manner.
I think that if people was going to come together and actually have a community, when we look at Torah, we got a perfect blueprint for how a community can work. And that's the problems that we have when people sit up here and they have all these problems. You could probably connect whatever their main problems is to them not doing something that's inside of here where they wasn't supposed to have been doing it like that in the first place. If we could look inside of Yahweh's Torah, we able to see perfect example of how we can have a community. But anybody on that, I gotta have, I gotta have my stuff,
Separated
together. I got to have all of my things,
I got
going to me.
I mean,
can't
I'm
be
like
worrying
that too.
about.
I hate to say it. I mean, I don't. That's why I said I prefaced myself and I said I'm not into it. But I think that it's just because of the society that we live in. You know what I mean? If you put all your money into one pot,
but
you probably gonna come out short at the end of the day.
Well, this didn't say nothing about putting all your money in one pot.
Well,
Just ain't saying nothing.
I think we could all buy our properties next to each other, but everybody had their own little property, and then the fields at the edges can be gleaned.
I'd like a big property.
Well,
My own
that's
field.
why you wouldn't be in the planning process. Of it. You can keep your little feelings. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
You
to.
have to think long term.
Mm-hmm. I know when my kids come up, now they gotta, compete for the boundaries or whatever.
No, that's why you.
So you talking about?
But I'm just saying that.
So you talking about your selfish ambitions.
At the end of the day,
versus-
communism and socialism, all that don't work because people are selfish.
We're talking about Torah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
So I think whenever we're in the land, we'll have our boundaries.
It don't gotta be like that. That's what I'm saying.
You saying that in exile we could still build community?
Yeah, people do it.
Of course.
And that's what you do. You base it off the Torah. That's you stick. That keeps the greedy people out.
Yeah, greedy people got to go.
Yeah, you can't have greedy people. greedy, and keeping the Torah don't mix.
It don't mix.
You can't be a part of it.
You can't hold on.
You got to get you out of here. Yeah, you out of here.
It don't go together.
But I see, from your perspective, you talking about trying to do this with wicked people. And yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But the thing is common unity.
Yeah.
What's going to unite us is the Torah. And
Yeah.
doing what they say, it's doable. That's why it's here. Yeah.
That's true.
You got everything you need. You got everything you need right here. That you're able to use. You sit up here and you shall do no injustice in judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor, nor defer to the great.
Mm-hmm.
When you are to judge your neighbor fairly.
Right.
So
You ain't supposed to sit up here and say, well, this person's super poor, so I'm gonna be sorry for him. Or this person got all the money, so I'm gonna be sorry for him.
Or I'm gonna pay more attention to his complaints over someone who is poor.
Yep. Right. You shall do no injustice in judgment, whether you super poor or super rich. Whatever your status is, don't matter. Rightness is rightness. Deal in equity and justice. It don't have nothing to do with your status. So even in that, if you got poor and you got great, this ain't what you thinking about in terms of like communism. Everybody's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't have those differentiations. Everybody's equal. Right here, we see
You
that
still have rich and
you
poor.
see there's poor and there's people that got a lot.
Some blessed have more than others.
Yeah.
So it still exists. It's just that everybody is taken care of.
The poor will be with you always.
Yeah, there's always gonna be
That's
that.
what she said.
Yeah.
But I see, like I say, because you're gonna have rich and poor, or people as more. I look at it as people more blessed than others.
Uh-huh.
The balance comes in when those who have them are blessed higher than others. They let that trickle down to that trickle
Why you
down.
gotta say
Hey, we start using it. I'm using it. Let it trickle down. To the poor. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Okay, so let's look at a couple more of these.
John's a Republican.
Definitely not, man.
The trickle down
How you
effect.
sound like it, you know?
Wasn't that Reagan?
I think so.
I think it was Reagan.
All right, so verse 16 says, "You shall not go about as a slander
Oh.
among your people. You are not to act against the life of your neighbor. I am Yahweh." Y'all keep on saying, "I am Yahweh."
He's letting you know why.
It's like he's signing it. Like a little signature and hey, just so you know.
You shall not go around as a scandal monger, as traveling about, tale bearer, a carrier of tales, spreading rumors or falsities about someone.
So
it's always used in a negative manner.
Okay, so it's like negative things.
No, it's always used in a negative manner as the act of tale bearing, but it don't necessarily have to be negative.
You mean the tales don't have to be negative tales?
No, but just by simple fact of you telling it is negative. If you're a tale bearer, that's always negative. But it don't mean that everything that you're saying is negative. It could just be a rumor or a tale.
So the tales could be positive tales or negative tales.
But they're always going to be negative based on the fact that you're doing it.
Tale bearing is negative, no matter if it's good or bad. So, but the tale would be tale bearing.
So when you telling other people's business, that's tale bearing. So you can't
and gossiping.
So you can't be telling somebody's business and it be positive.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's somebody's business.
Be quiet.
So that makes it negative.
Alright.
You shall not go about as a scandal monger. Because it could just be some regular old business. Like, I got a juicy story for you today.
The real talebearer, like people watching other people and getting all the info.
Those are the juicy people lead on.
That's 16. People, these women need to know about. 16. And they say at the end, I am Yahweh. Right? They love sitting up here talking about people's business. Did you see what what's the name of them was talking about over there at the library the other day?
Be quiet.
That's how y'all be. Tailbearer.
Yeah.
What's the name of them was talking about?
I know that's your
And it couples with that, right? It couples with it. And you are not to act against the life of your neighbor. Right? So you sitting up there, so connect them together. If I'm sitting up here talking to I'm talking to you, John, about Chris's business. And there's some messed up business I'm talking to you about. So not only am I talking to you about it, but if it's a messed up business, right? It's where it says, and you are not to act against the life of your neighbor. If I could be helping them,
right,
I should be helping them instead of never talking to you about it.
Exactly.
Right. So it puts those two things together where I'm perfectly able to actually do something about it as opposed to just talking about it or being a scandal monger. I'm just telling you just for the sake of some excitement. Let me tell you about what Chris was over there doing over there and just for entertainment purposes.
Right.
Meanwhile, he's somewhere dying. Like,
yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah, he got issues going on. And we're not talking about the solutions. We're just talking about just word. That's what happened.
Right.
Information.
Yeah, just information, entertainment.
Right.
So I think when we see those two things together, they're definitely connected because when you're sitting up here doing this talking, it don't have nothing to do with solving anything. It's just about giving people stories and information.
Right.
Where it should be about, where it wouldn't be scandal if I'm saying, this is what's going on now.
Let's fix it.
What we gonna do to help the situation. Right. That's different. But
see, then you're being proactive in your community. So now everybody is helping everybody. Yeah. So nobody's letting people fall to the point where disaster happens. It's like everybody's helping each other, right? Which is what
It should
an
be
example
constructed.
community under Yah. If we in the image of Yah, He gave us
Oh my goodness, sorry.
He gave us this this light. Because us keeping the commandments is light, you know. Yeah. Then that will be shown.
Mm-hmm.
Because hey, you got other communities that do it. We see it, you know, the so-called Jewish community and all that, and you don't see too much of their scandals being on the forefront. They deal with it.
Inside.
Yeah. Us, we world star it. We videotaping it and you know, and laughing at each other. Ah, look at you. Yeah. Instead of, hey, let's solve this. Let's, you know. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. 18. You shall not take vengeance nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. So that word vengeance was translated as let's see, avenge. Means grudge or avenge or punish. To take one's revenge. Let's see here. Not to seek revenge against one another, for to do so is unworthy of them. So, you know, we can't sit up here and people do something to you, and that person get on my nerves. I'm gonna sit up here and do X, Y, Z to this person. Well, it might just be, well, I don't mess with you. That's how I stop revenge against you.
Mm-hmm.
It don't necessarily gotta be a positive action that you're doing. It could be that negative action where I don't mess with you now.
Right.
Because you want to sit up there and be like, oh, you want to be like that? I don't mess with you. Well, you doing something by going to that point and saying, I don't mess with you. Right? That's your vengeance. That's your punishment that you doing. Right? That's your punishment.
And you know, and that would bring toxicness to the community, because if you got, the scriptures say you're supposed to bring your issues one to another and deal with it.
Yeah.
You ain't supposed to have stuff fester to that, because it get out of control.
Overnight.
Yeah. That's like a community should always be in the spirit.
Yeah.
And the spirit is harmonious with each other, working our. You can get mad one day, have an issue, but you have to resolve it. And you can't just be like, I'm just not gonna mess with you. Because that's not the spirit either. It's like, well, the most time stop messing with us. Yeah. Yeah.
So that word is nakam. Nakam. The word for grudge or avenge. So I just thought about this. Okay, so you have the sprouted seed, which continuation, something that's continuing that's going on. You have this condensing, this gathering, all right, and then you have the water. So if you think about, the first thing that I thought about was like a pressure washer, where you have this high pressure of water, but it's condensed down to like a small opening, right?
Yeah.
Where the water being pushed through the small opening is like cutting all of this stuff away.
The kids learned about a pressure, a water drill.
Or a water drill, where water can be used to cut through metal.
Yeah. You have enough pressure on it.
Yeah. Or if I sat up there and drip water on your forehead,
Constantly crazy on that.
Yeah. So that's some people over there in other countries who doing just sit there and drip water. Keep on dripping on your forehead. Drop. But we talking about these actions of vengeance, right? You putting your will on somebody as a result of them doing something to you.
To try to punish someone.
Yeah, it's punitive. It's a punitive thing involved in it.
I'm
Or you becoming justified by this thing happening.
I want to kind of read the English definition for avenge. They say inflict harm in return for an injury or wrong done to oneself or another. I don't think that's.
So when we think about Yeshua, right, and people talking about turning the other cheek, it don't have nothing to do with self-defense, right? Yeshua ain't saying that you can't defend yourself. That's not what's turning the other cheek is you have to do with.
Right.
I would say that has more to do with this idea of vengeance or revenge than kind of self-preservation. Yeah, I'm saying it don't have nothing to do with self-preservation at all. You should talk about turning the other cheek. Is not saying, well,
that's what might kill you.
Yeah, just sit there and don't do nothing while somebody sits up there and takes your life away, right? Because that ain't what he did. When it was time for him to go, that's when he went. But he didn't stand around and have people do stuff to him when he didn't want for it to happen.
Right.
So when we look at this, and we think about, what vengeance actually is, or to avenge, I'm not going to sit up here, well, you hurt me, so now I'm going to hurt you back.
Or because you feel a certain kind of way to someone, like you're going to treat them a certain kind of way.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing, though.
Well, even if they didn't, I'm just saying, even if they didn't like hurt you.
Well, they hurt your feelings. Feelings are real, even though they're illogical. They are real. So when people sit up there and hurt your feelings, you want to hurt their feelings back because you really feel some hurt as a result of it. But the Torah says you're not supposed to be sitting up here dealing with people and punishing them, giving them punitive actions, trying to get revenge.
Right.
And bearing a grudge, right? Bearing a grudge. So to keep or to take care of or to be angry or to maintain a grudge, to hold something against another person to disdain him or her. Right, so they did something where natar, which means to guard or to cherish anger.
That's interesting. That's what, to cherish anger?
Yeah. So to guard or figuratively to cherish the anger. So I'm holding on to it. So I'm just going I love this anger, this grudge. I'm not going to let this thing go no matter what.
I mean, because and it becomes like that. It kind of, if you have a grudge against someone, it becomes addicting. It becomes something
it's beyond whatever the thing is. It just turns into it's just a matter of I have a grudge.
People forget about why.
I don't mess with you.
Years later,
I don't even know why I don't mess with you, but I just know I don't mess with you. And that's you just cherishing that anger. Right? You
don't want to let it go.
You just want to hold on to it instead of just letting bygones be bygones.
What his key says. Let bygones be bygones.
Right. So these ways are things that are contrary to Torah. These are things that Yahweh don't want this. Right? This is things that's coming out of the
He don't want
character
this
of
in
Yahweh.
his community.
No,
Right.
you don't
Yes.
want no grudges. You don't want no vengeance.
Yeah.
You don't want people sitting up there talking about people.
They sat up there and they went way past their corner when they was sitting up there gleaning.
He in the middle of my field. What's going on?
Ain't nothing like the corner.
Oh my goodness. I just can't wait till we are restored and these Torah commands can really just
I know, but see,
See, you
this
can
is
see
a little
them.
bit of a problem with what you talking about right now.
why? Because of what I said before.
Because you talking about I can't you basically just said I can't wait till you should come back and just do everything.
Like we don't gotta do nothing.
Well, no, I'm not saying it like that.
No, but you gotta
The only reason that I was talking about I was being honest and transparent. Now I could have just acted like I was fine with.
Yeah, but the thing about it
being
is that
transparent.
that's fine. That's all well and good. But once we are able to see and recognize these things, we need to be able to put them in the proper place.
That's why I'm gonna let Hisky take my
So
quarters.
its proper place is not just being able to
My own
recognize the dysfunction of
Yeah.
this, but be able to. It's not something that's beyond the realm of possibility,
Even now.
even now. Right. These things, these are simple things
Right.
Just-
that can
Yeah.
just be put into place. It don't even necessarily. It don't
practice
even got to be Israelites.
yeah.
These are just simple things and rules.
That we
This has got to
walk
be
in.
like this for you to be here.
Yeah.
And if you can't be like this, that's how we doing things in here, then you can't be here.
Okay.
Yeah. Point blank.
I like that perspective that these are things to practice.
This is practical living here.
Practical living, how to live your life. Even
But
in
it's but the point of it is that this is Torah and this is Yahweh's character. So if we're walking in His character, right? This is how these are the underlying principles that should be in our actions as those that are walking in the Spirit of Yahweh. So if we're talking about building communities based on Torah, these things are not kind of these high and lofty goals where they just can't be done. You can see where communities have failed because they weren't operating in this wise. But these are just basic things like don't take my stuff, I won't take yours. Right? Don't sit up there and talk about me behind my back. I mean, you could be helping me. You know what I mean? These are just basic things that can definitely be implemented in this current status that we're in right now.
I think even as far as not taking revenge and all that prevents there being like a civil war amongst them.
Yeah, there's a problem.
Like,
you
you
go to the elders and say, look, this person over here is straight tripping.
The elders.
Saying that.
But then you let some people that's not connected to the situation deal with it instead of people who's in it with the emotion.
No bias.
Yeah.
And then people rightly judge it.
Yes, this needs to be done.
And that's
And that's
you
what
hear it
happened.
and move on. Yeah. Because it's like everything go back to balance. Because for instance, if everybody avenged for everything that happened to them, everybody
Crazy.
run around stoning each other.
That's what's happening in all the streets right now.
Exactly. Taking
Man,
vengeance
I
in
sat
their
there
own
and
hand.
they killed Pookie.
Oh, they did? Oh, who did it?
We're gonna go get him.
Yep.
Who's
And it's a
who's-
cycle back and forth. Back.
It's-
Oh,
that's
they
just an
killed.
example.
They killed so and so. Now the next group.
Wait till it gets hot. It's gonna be all kind of grudges and vengeance. But if we could get back to Torah principles, right?
That's how we know this is real.
You just don't do me
It's
wrong.
right, it's right here.
It's
It's right in front of us.
Mhm. Okay, let's look at a couple more of these before we be done here. If we go down, here's some ones that you look at again where kind of how we talked about the third day thing. Look at 23. When you enter the land and plant all kinds of trees for food, then you shall count their fruit as forbidden. 3 years it shall be forbidden to you. It shall not be eaten. But in the 4th year, all its fruit shall be holy, and an offering of praise to Yahweh. In the 5th year, you are to eat of its fruit, and that its yields may increase for you. I am Yahweh.
Dude.
It is.
Damn.
As soon as that joint start butting, you know I'm all over it.
So look at that. You plant all kinds of trees and fruits, right? All kinds of trees for food. It ain't till the 5th year that you actually eating any of that stuff. 3 years is just straight forbidden, period. It's not to be eaten. The 4th year goes to Yahweh. And then now it's finally the 5th year, now you can eat it. Now let's hear some scientific one.
Hey, it's that I believe it's there. It's a logical. I feel like. I mean, I would go into and look some more stuff up. I mean, I'm not completely disconnected from agriculture and all that stuff, but I mean, depending on fertile soil, the soil. It says when you come into the land.
Yeah.
So it's like a beginning.
Right.
So it's not like you were already there. So yeah.
Start going.
When you hit a new land, I guess.
Exactly.
It's like the crop tree or whatever needs to get a foundation, maybe. But wait.
But now, okay, so let's think about like an apple tree. If you plant an apple tree and it grows and it starts growing, bearing fruit that first year. What does you eating the fruit off of that tree have to do with the maturation of the tree necessarily?
Nothing.
See, I would think you would be taken away from it.
Taken away? No, I'm talking about just eating it. Like, because if the prohibition is for you to 3 years is forbidden to you, it shall not be eaten. So if you got a tree and it grows fruit on it, and the fruit, say you don't even pick it and it just falls.
Mm-hmm.
It don't say you don't pick it up. It say you don't eat it.
You don't eat it.
So I'm saying as far as the maturing process of the tree, what does me eating it, how does that affect the tree necessarily? I don't know that it does. I can't say that. I don't know how it works.
I don't. Because that fruit. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it kind of makes me think of that, and I might be saying it wrong, like the sabbatical year of like farming and agriculture, where you're supposed to farm for like 6 years and then give it a year rest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's making me think of like when we're coming into the land, it's almost like giving it time to become nourishment and stuff for itself. So it's like the fruit falling and you not eating it becomes its own, maybe sort of like compost type thing.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, like even when it comes to like pine trees and stuff, like when those fall and those acorns and stuff fall, the squirrels take it and they bury it, and then all of a sudden like you have other trees, other places that it was able to mature. So I don't know, I'm thinking about it like that. Maybe.
So you saying just the fruit just sitting up there growing and falling is actually kind of
Part of like
bringing nourishment to the. But say for instance, see, a reason why I would say no is because, like, my problem out here is that since I'm not a farmer, I grow stuff and I keep on growing the same stuff right there. When stuff grow out, I'll take the stuff off. Even if you just take it off in the fall, it's not the same as turning the stuff over back into the ground. So the nutrients is being stripped, even if they fall back down onto the ground. It's not like it's getting down into the earth necessarily. So I'm not sure if just letting it grow and the fruit falling is enough really to enrich that soil over that time. I could be wrong.
I'm thinking 3 years.
Because like with these vines, for instance, it took a few years. It took 3 years for them even really just to even start getting real grapes on them. And during them 3 years, me cutting back the vines and pruning and all of that.
I think that's, you just said it right there. It's like the maturity of the tree or the crop or whatever. It's 3 years. Like,
but my only thing is that me eating it doesn't have anything to do with like whether I cut the stuff off and just throw it in the garbage or cut it off and eat it.
How does that change?
It don't. Yeah, I'm saying it don't change the way that the thing is grown.
yeah, I don't think that. I'm thinking of maybe on a possibly I wouldn't even say necessarily on a nutrition level. I mean, just the maturity of the tree or whatever just would take 3 years, and the Most High just his high level is like that's when it's time to eat it. Like, because we think about plants, it's a phase. It starts with the seed, and then it has all these phases, and then that's part of the phases of it becoming mature, and maybe for us to use, we might understand the full level of it. But on that 3rd year, it's significant because I always say the Most High, whether we understand or not, it's some logic to what He has us do, because this is His creation, so He knows about it. So for Him to specifically tell us this type of stuff, I feel like the answers could be there. You just gotta seek it out. The answer's there, but I as you said, your vines took about 3 years for they really start coming in, and that's about the time frame. Even though this might start bearing fruit, it might. That's when it has the fruit. The fruit is most nutritious at that point forward.
But then I'm also like thinking too, could it have something to do with maybe not even nutrition itself, but just the amount of work ethic, like time before you're reaping harvest type thing. Because I know, like you say, the first 3 years don't touch it, and the 4th year.
What you doing?
What? Right?
I don't know.
What is
Is it chair steps?
Somebody went on mute or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking maybe a work ethic thing too. Like this is how much time I need you to like focus on coming back. before you start reaping the harvest of like things that you.
But we're going into the land. We ain't gonna be coming back from.
We're saying going
planting.
into the land.
You shall come into the land.
Well, I mean, I see what you're saying in terms of there's this time that's invested in just the growing process, where the fruit necessarily is not even important. It's just growth and maturing, and then the first fruits don't even come back to you. It's just that part even just goes to Yahweh. And then now, after all that time has passed, now you start getting to actually kind of benefit from all of these things. Where I guess you could look at it like that. You could look at it like that. I'm saying because you gotta put the time in. You gotta put the time in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because you got a tree there, and just because there's fruit hanging off of it, don't mean necessarily it's time to eat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those, that tree still needs to grow, and it needs to get to the place where God is saying that it's of age. I think that being city folk, it's hard for us to kind of look at some of these things and really get it, because we city folk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We ain't used to having.
The farmer probably tell you right off top of his head, oh yeah, this is why. Because I had apple trees and they did this and did that. So yeah, you definitely want to wait a good 3 years.
The lady across the alley got a couple fruit trees over there, and she ain't seen near bit of fruit on them things since she had them.
That's the thing too. I was thinking, like, we were using the apple tree as the example, and like, how long does it take?
It takes a while.
Yeah. So I mean,
because you might not get nothing. It might just be that you wasn't gonna get nothing that we get to start with.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, with the vines, there were like a couple little bunches, but nowhere near like how it was this year.
Yeah.
It was grapes all over the place. Wow. But every year is more and more.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's kind of that same type of a thing where, it's going to get to where it's going to be at its full kind of maturation to a point. And
so he's saying to allow the tree to get mature.
To grow.
Right.
And then Ebony wants to sit there and spiritualize it, which I don't know what else to do with it but that, because like I said, I'm on city fat. It's hard to really kind of get some of this stuff because we're so far removed from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got to get back to the understanding and knowing about these things. That ain't that hard because we got these things. You know what I mean? We learned. We don't know nothing about farming, but we know that Yahweh talks about there being a time where you just let the land rest, let it grow, and just let it grow into itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's deep.
Okay. See, 26 talks about eating blood, nor practicing divination or soothsaying. So I don't want to catch y'all going down there to the little psychic place down there. I thought it's weird that the psychic place is the same place that sell Christmas trees.
At the end of
Across the street from the ice cream place.
there's a second
Oh.
place.
They got like a little car sign in the window that talks about, you know,
Tarot
little,
card reading.
yeah,
At that corner that's running Carson.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And that place got Christmas trees.
Oh, I didn't pay attention to see all that.
And
Only because I drive past it 2 times a day.
Oh, okay.
For several years.
Yeah,
Right now over. I don't know how many
see.
times you go over there this time of year, but they definitely got Christmas trees. They definitely do read your tell your fortune on it too.
I think that is something that is also being made more common. Like, why every single Disney cartoon has to have like a witch or a sorcerer of some sort.
Oh yeah.
And it
I know this is not
wait,
what
wait.
you're talking about.
and it just desensitizes these kids into thinking that this is an okay thing. What?
I know this is not what you were talking about, but also Disney does not like parents. And you can tell that because their parents always are killed.
Oh yeah, the
What?
the princess shows like
Everything. No, like all
like Snow White, Cinderella was an orphan.
Wow.
What is it? Even that Frozen movie, the
Yeah.
parents died. That is true. I didn't think about the parents dying.
the parents died in Frozen?
Yeah,
They're on the ship and they
they
crash because of the big
the
waves.
ship crashed, and then they made her to be the queen or whatever.
Wow.
But it's like all of the, for some reason, it just becomes this whole thing.
I've never seen it. So.
I mean, even with the kids' Minecraft, I don't understand why they have witches. What is it?
Potions.
Oh yeah, and then I don't like my kids dealing with things called potions, and I'm like, why does it have to be called a potion? Like, I don't understand, why do we need to use these words? So now this is making them think potions and all this stuff is okay to a certain extent.
It's like things that they mix and then
They mix
put it
it.
in lab bottles. And like when you throw it at somebody,
Well, you do kind of
Infected.
make potions too. You had some potions whenever you was pregnant with that, right?
Why do you,
yeah.
why do you gotta use the
That was
word?
a potion.
Why do you gotta use the word
Technically, you
potion?
would be seen as a witch, according to the witch people. What was that, Massachusetts?
Yeah,
Salem.
witch trials or witch hunts.
Any type of herb you put together.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is
I
that
think there's a difference between potions and then, like, if I was to mix up some potions and then get some type of determination based on
the potion.
it's different from like mixing together some herbs for medicine.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Who's on there?
Did somebody say something before?
No, but I heard something talking.
It definitely ain't me.
Oh, that's on the
So,
man. Crazy.
Yeah, I
What
thought
is it, Brown?
potion, so my head just came as a mixture. The definition of liquid, healing, magical, or poisonous properties.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly.
You make a smoothie, a health smoothie, you can technically be called a potion. You know what I mean?
all together.
Because you go to for healing or something. Because it's just a
I
mixture.
know.
That's what
That's what Ted was calling my stuff that I had when I was pregnant. He's like, you making all these potions. I'm like, why are you using that word to describe this? Like, this isn't a potion.
But it could be because it's just a mixture.
Yeah.
It's just what you're using it for.
Yeah. I think you just gotta just
The whole magic thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
In
magic.
in this world, at least, it's just overtaking things.
There's a restaurant in Mount Washington where these women they called themselves white witches, and that's what they said. They made like shakes and healthy like mixes like Hill and all of that stuff.
Wow.
That was the last time I ate there when they told me they was witches.
Hey, white? Why they say white witches?
Because it's
That's good.
They're
Oh,
good witches.
nice.
Yeah.
quote unquote.
I'm a good witch.
I'm a good witch.
Hey, how did it taste, Chris?
I didn't drink none of that.
Hey, just making sure.
Divination is enchantment, which is nakash.
Ooh. Is that Nakash?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's the serpent in the garden.
Enchanter, prognosticate, learn by experience, and be diligent. Nakash. To hiss. And what's the other one? Divination or observe times. So that would be kind of like when you sit up there and look at like the. I always get it confused, astrology and astronomy. One of them is bad, one of them is neutral.
Astronomy.
Maybe astronomy is neutral. Astrology.
Yeah, astrology it's like, when you're practicing
Like with the signs.
The astrological things and try to make sense of it to the point where you direct your life off of it. But no, astrology? You're just studying the celestial bodies. Wait, astronomy and then astrology.
Man, it's easy to know, which is
I know, right?
we
all got phones, right? Just pull it up there.
Or dictionaries. Tinker up there sometimes, work it out.
Tinker.
Like cobwebs, think a little bit.
We say astrology.
Dictionaries tell you
astrology. I'm saying astrology is the one word.
I always thought horoscopes was bad, but astrology was like
the same
not
thing.
that. I didn't think it was the same. I thought it was kind of different. But horoscopes was like, this is what's happening to you today because you are.
But it's
Because of
based
your
on
sign.
astrology. Though.
But it's based off astrology.
Because of your sign, that's why you act a certain way.
So astrology is the wicked one.
Yeah.
The study of the movements of relative positions of celestial bodies, interpreted as having an influence on human affairs in the natural world.
So that would be the observing of times.
Is that part of the command?
Yeah.
And you said that was astronomy. G?
Astrology.
That was astrology.
Astrology.
Not astronomy.
Divination or magic. So enchantment or observing times or magic or.
Oh, okay.
So observing times would be me sitting up there and saying, I'm a Leo, and today it's gonna be a good day for me based on
The stars are aligned in your favor.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
I think it's good for us to know the stars.
Well, right. So astronomy
astronomy.
is just having an understanding of the luminaries in the sky,
Right.
which is something that we should know about.
We should know.
Again, we should know about this agricultural stuff. We should know about the lights in the sky, but we're so disconnected from these things now, where we're not.
I tell my kids that as Hebrews, we should know about the celestial bodies.
Yeah.
Because that's what our time,
That's the timepiece,
our calendar is based off of the sun and the moon and stars.
Yep.
So that's one thing.
But you don't worship them.
No, and you don't sit up here,
It's for a sign.
and use it like the horoscope people would be doing.
Right.
Prognosticate.
And then
think that really works. I gotta find a real success from. I'm about to look that up from astrology.
Get that from
I usually on people going and because I used to study it, not to the extent where I practiced it. I never believed in the predicting or following. I studied the part where they say if you're born in these time frames of the zodiac or this and that, the personality traits and all those different things. Because honestly, me studying that, it's weird, but that's just a lot of it's spot on. Like in terms of where you're born and different time frames, celestial bodies.
It might be that they actually notice things based off of things, I guess. But then they'd be like, today, this is going to happen to you.
Well, that's stupid. I think.
Like, you know what I mean? I think that part of it would be like, if you notice things, maybe it's just natural how things turn out. You know, maybe people who are born in the winter are a little bit different from people who are born in the summer. But to say like, because it used to be on the news every morning.
Was it?
When I was growing up, they had the horoscopes on the news every morning for all the different signs, what your horoscope is for the day.
Growing up, it was always on
Wasn't
the internet. Like the main.
You
thing.
grew up with the internet age. A couple years after.
AOL.
AOL, yeah. Netscape Navigator.
Yeah.
I guess that little bit of time.
Well, the internet really like blossomed very quickly. You know what I mean? So for me, I remember watching the news on my way to school in the morning, and it was on the news every day, like what your horoscope was and what was going to happen to you.
I used to believe it. I used to be like, "Oh, okay, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for it throughout the day," and I'm like, "It didn't happen." Right? So it just, and I was young too.
I think that when we look at the fact that Yahweh is forbidding these things, I'm not sure if that necessarily validates the things or not.
Like there could be some truth in.
I'm saying that just because he's saying don't do it, I'm not saying that necessarily is saying that these things are real or true. Because you're not supposed to have these other gods. He tells us not to have other gods. But then, you know, he talks about the fact that you sit up here and you cut down a tree and you build it up and you put stuff on it. You take this wood and you carve it. You take the stone and you fashion it and then you worship it. So he's clearly telling you that this thing is a figment of your imagination. You sat up there and made the thing and then you're worshiping it. So he gives us a prohibition of, you know, not having these idols, but still we understand that he's the only true and living Elohim. And I think the same could be true with these other things. But I'm just saying, just the simple fact that we have these commands of not doing it doesn't necessarily say that these things are even something that is real. You know, I'll never forget the time when my uncle's wife was going to learn how to be you would call the 900 number and do the psychic thing.
You're gonna want to be a psychic?
Yeah, but it's something you can learn how to do. Like, you know what I mean? You ask certain questions, and based on the answers, you can have these certain responses. It's scientific. It's not magical.
People are taught this?
Yeah, you could have got a job doing it.
Oh my gosh, my mind.
Yep. You saw every time you called Miss Cleo, you was gonna get Miss Cleo.
What you want now? Sorry, I had to say something.
Yeah, so
did you ever tell them about what you were looking at when people are drawing up on the board? Is that kind of like?
What do you mean?
What Remember that one girl? She was writing things. She was seeing into the future or something.
Oh, precognition or something.
Precognition.
I mean, no, that
That's
goes
not-
that goes into this too, because people having visions and then trying to predict the future and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That goes into
Well,
that too, kind of.
We talk about in 31, then I turn to mediums.
Right.
You know, familiar
Exactly.
spirits is to be
Yeah.
defiled by them.
Familiar spirits.
You know, that's the familiar spirits
Wizards. Yeah.
and wizards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what that.
So
I know, it makes me so mad. There's this one children channel on YouTube, and they call themselves Hebrew Wizards. I'm like, how contrary?
Like you just put two things
Like,
together.
what
But
the heck?
they don't go together.
Gosh, and it's like when they're done teaching a lesson, like now you're a Hebrew wizard. I'm like,
that's crazy.
it's like that don't make no sense.
You're like, I just need to not be
Take
part
that
of this.
part.
Stuff. Yeah.
But it's crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
How about Rise Before the Hoary Head?
What verse is that?
That's the next one. Isn't it?
I skipped down. So
But how about around the corners of the head is on this?
27.
Yeah.
27. Then around the corner of your head, nor destroy the corner of your beard.
That's for his key because he's waiting for his beard to come in.
So you got a long ways to go.
He's just waiting.
It's about rounding the corners of your heads, or destroying the corners of your beards. You know, Israelites should be walking around with beards if you could grow a beard. It's not as if you just because you don't got a beard, doesn't mean, but according to this,
That's just
it
cold,
said
huh?
you're not supposed to destroy the corner of. So you can figure out what the corner is. Then you can figure out what you shouldn't be destroying. That word I think is borders, which is the same word for where your fringes is supposed to be. So either it's the four corners of your head's a square, or it's the extremities of it, which is saying that, you know, if I sit up here and either the corners of my head or my beard, if I'm shaping it,
Right.
then I'm destroying it. If I'm rounding it, or we won't really round it, we kind of square them off, you know, with the little acrobatics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you saying like what's it
Acrobatic.
called? A shape up.
Shape up. Yeah, shape up.
So we're not supposed to do that.
No, I don't think so.
That's
He don't-
how we interpret it.
That's the shape of.
I mean, how
Right.
else could you interpret it?
It's
Well,
like
you get the little twirlies.
I guess they do kind of round it,
They round the top,
but
right?
then you do say it.
yeah. I used to, I used to get the shape up and then go and then, but after reading that, it's like I get a haircut. When I do, just cut it.
Cut it
And
off.
I'm done.
That's why I just cut the length. I don't cut the borders.
Yeah,
Let them
exactly.
go.
Yep.
I'll cut it down. I cut it down too much the last time I cut it, but I didn't. I don't destroy my borders.
But you know what's interesting too? If it's talking about the borders, I'm thinking my people can go crazy with it. So if he's saying don't even hit the border, so that means keep your beard, because some people might be like, all right, I'm cutting all this down here. All this down to here, you know. And so it's like the most I probably want us to have probably a certain amount of hair if you can grow the hair. So everybody walk
It's a
around.
blessing that y'all can grow beards because some men can't grow beards. And I feel bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Jacob said he doesn't want to.
Well, it's just one of those things that, you know, you always says you got a command right there. You don't want the shape up. You don't want the on your head or on your beard, basically, because you would be destroying the borders of your head or your beard.
And you know what too, going back to the ancient civilizations, the other nations,
They hated that. They was cut everything off.
Exactly. Or they had different specific designs how they would do theirs. And it was like, yeah, like the most I want must have a distinct, like, hey, keep your beard. Because if you have to put that in there, that means that it was probably going around us. It was influenced. The Egyptians definitely did it. You know,
So
it's
they would have like
your
little
beard.
things of hair.
It's a little lock coming out. Yeah.
The rest be bald.
Yeah. Looking crazy.
I know.
I'm not like, don't be looking crazy walking through the land, man. Crazy hairstyles. Yep.
So we see all these things. We see these things that deal with, you know, how we look, how we farm, how we act,
How we treat each other.
Yeah, how we deal with one another. All these.
That's
things.
what I was thinking about, the older people rising before them, having respect for older people.
Yeah, rise up before the gray-headed. And you shall favor the face of an old man, and shall fear Elohim. I am Yahweh. I've been gray-headed since I was 6 years old.
Oh, really?
So I need for some people to be rising.
That's crazy.
But it is crazy how
Wait,
like
I forgot how you got gray hair.
Huh?
I forgot how you got gray hair.
It just came.
I just turned gray.
I used to think because I'll tell you about it.
But it is crazy how like everything we learn about, we've been raised contrary to it. And it's just like
Right,
it's
because we grow up
amazing.
in this society that's anti-Torah, it's
everything about
Most
it though. Like nothing other than, I mean, killing isn't really
yeah, it's
frowned upon, but I'm just
It depends. Depends who you are.
It does depend.
But I'm just saying,
What kind of suit you wear, you know, it depends.
but I mean, like for the most part, it's just wow, like we have to really relearn all this stuff and every detail.
I
even
want to be
talking to each
part
other.
of. I want us to all be part of that community of faith again.
Yeah.
It's just very, we just gotta get back to teaching our kids. I try to teach my kids when we go out, don't embarrass me, but
Yeah, that's exactly what you say. You just say, "Don't embarrass me," when we're like driving there.
don't embarrass me. But
She just gives
also,
us a whole big talking to about it too.
yeah, I do. But also about respecting older people and respecting elders, and you know what I mean. Like, just don't look at an adult person like they're you. Like, you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're not your friend.
Like, understand who you're talking to. And the same thing with me when I'm dealing with someone who's older, to be respectful. Because they're older. It don't have nothing to do with they did this, and this, but because they're older, it don't have nothing to do with anything else.
That's what it say right there. That's
It
what it
reminds
say.
me of Mom. You remind me of when Dad told me to speak when spoken to.
That's what he said.
You said you shall favor the face of an old man,
Yeah.
and shall fear your Elohim. All in the same thing. The times is different now.
Yeah.
Little kids be sitting up here talking. Well, ain't nobody talking to them. Nobody didn't ask them for nothing. And they just interject their own little. And then it used to be like that. You know
Be
what I
like,
mean?
math, please speak.
And then it used to be like that. People be sitting up there. Young people be sitting up there talking crazy. The old people just.
Yeah. And that's how you know it's because it's like a back to the order in the community. If you ain't, because one thing with elders, they've been on this earth longer.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you got to give respect to anyway, because they got so much that you can get from them. That respect should just be, it's natural. It should be like a natural thing. And when you got today's society, young people, you can't tell them nothing. You can't. Young people think they know stuff.
Yeah, I don't know nothing.
And yeah, so
I think when they start breaking the family down, that's kind of when that thing kind of start happening. Where now people they don't have no family structure, so they don't know how things are supposed to be.
Mhm.
and they just treat everybody like they're the same.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Where, but then it used to be like that.
Their parents are their friends.
Yeah.
And you know, because until everybody, because your parent sets the order, the hierarchy, to have respect first. That's what, you know, what we read at the beginning: honor your mother and your father. And if you can't start with that honor, because being a human being on the planet first, showing honor to somebody else, then how you gonna honor anybody else? That's the start.
And I think when we're honoring Yahweh, you know, putting Him first,
right?
It's just like it just all goes together, like, you know what I mean, like putting Him first, recognizing His superiority and the fact that He knows more. It just kind of flows to our other aspects.
Right, and he's also given us these physical relationships to show us how we deal with Him.
Exactly.
He's never saying, rise up before a gray-headed or hoary-headed and respect these old. I can't remember what the verse was. I just went past it. For I am Yahweh. Like he's connecting it too. Like you understand about respecting, going all the way back to where we started. That your parents, your mother and your father is connected with. You learn how to understand how we deal with our heavenly Father by dealing with your earthly father. And it goes all the way through all of these things. We learn how to exhibit the character of Yahweh by doing these laws, statutes, and commandments that He put forth for us to walk in, whether it be dealing with our family or dealing with, you know, our communities, or, you know, what we wear or what we eat, or, you know, how we look. Let's see. I guess I'll probably anybody has any thoughts or comments or
what was in
questions
20?
About 20?
Did it deal with just more of these type of commandments?
Yeah, 20 dealt with a lot of the dealt with Molech, giving the children over unto Molech, and a lot of the penalties that came with some of the sexual relationships that it went over in the last chapter. Just real quick, Molech, we kind of touched on it a little bit along the way. But one thing I did think about was, you know, we don't really have this idea of Molech where we, you know, they offered their children up to this. The way I understood it was you had this statue of this animal person thing. They would put their babies on it and kind of sacrifice the baby onto the thing. And you're basically giving your baby over unto these foreign gods. And you know, I kind of talked about it in relation to the learning, but you know, I don't know what the difference is in terms of, you know, Molech, whether it's Molech or whether it's, you know, these other thought processes that you allowing. You're giving your children over to these counter thought processes. Mm-hmm. Where to me it's the same thing. The spirit of what we see with Molech is Israel giving its children over to these foreign ideas that ends up killing the child. So we may not have a statue that we go and lay our child on, but we do have these systems and we do have these thought processes that we sit up here and we lay our children at the feet of this Molech.
And when you protect them from being, you know, from the system thing, then you get looked at by the system as being like,
well, yeah,
you know,
by the system, yeah. But let's just read.
I mean, like, you know, it's hard to protect your children, especially from like the vaccination. I hate to talk about, but like the vaccinations, you gotta fight the. You know what I mean? You gotta literally, when you go in there, you gotta be like, you gotta like fight the people.
Look at this verse here, 20 verse 1. I'll read a couple verses. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "You shall also say to the sons of Israel, any man from the sons of Israel or from the alien sojourning in Israel who gives any of his offspring to Molech." And Molech is basically the same word as Melech, or king. It's the same word. Shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. I will also set my face against that man, will cut him off from among his people, because he has given some of his offspring to Molech, so as to defile my sanctuary and to profane my name. And if the people of the land, however, should ever disregard that the man, when he gives any of his offspring to Molech, as not to put him to death, then I myself will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut off from among their people both him and all those who play the harlot after him by playing the harlot. So in other words, if you got these persons who are following after Molech and giving their children over unto Molech, stone them and kill them. And if you don't do it, I'm still going to turn my face from them. And anybody who does what they do.
So he's saying that even if you don't enact the justice against them, he's going to enact the justice against them.
Yeah. So this was a serious thing, and it's abstract because we don't know what Molech is. Because we got to sit up here and do the historical research as to how they did it. But what we can know is that it is the foreign god that they gave their children over unto. And from what I learned, it was literally sacrificial, where the children are actually being killed.
Right. Offering, and we're offering them up.
Yeah.
To get something in return.
To me, all I see is, when we, give our children over to this counter thought process, this thing that's against what Yahweh is trying to do, it's the same thing. I don't know what the difference is, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with the child's spiritual being, right? Whether it's a process or whether it's instantaneous, at the end of the day, you're going to offer your offspring up over to this false foreign king. So,
and that's your future generation,
right? So that stops everything.
So that stops all of the.
That stops everything. So I believe the children are the future. Cue the music. And so does the Most High.
I knew it.
So does the Most High. And these is how these things can be enacted from generation to generation. If we cutting off, the children, they can't keep this thing going. And we have to be able to, let this thing live. Pass it on to the children.
And going back to Genesis, when it said, "Be fruitful and multiply."
Yeah.
And
that's more than just making babies.
Yeah. And but then too, the only other time we had without the Most High kind of did something similar when Abraham, he told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. But then, it didn't go through. It wasn't like a custom. It sounds like Israel was coming from a custom where that was it's normal to.
Yeah, or at least something that was like he was ready to do it.
Yeah,
he was ready to do it.
Yeah. And then we get to this part, and it's a commandment, like to the extent that now it's interesting that things that affect us don't avenge, don't hold a grudge, have mercy. But things that directly offend the Most High, you got to kill that man. You got to get him out of there.
Right, because that's dealing with justice. It's not just dealing with you sitting up here trying to enact vengeance.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's equity involved.
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't like he wasn't about justice and righteousness. These people were sitting up here and disrupting Israel as a nation. Then they was dealt with. Surely put to death. Okay, so all that being said, is there any other thoughts or questions or comments before we
I just want to say that I am thankful to be able to operate in these ways. Like, like that we have an understanding of what we should do, and to actually be able to, like, I'm taking notes, like making correction where correction is needed. You know what I mean? Being able to evaluate how I'm living. But I'm thankful just for the opportunity to be able to walk in these ways, because there's just so much wisdom in it. You know what I mean? Right. And whereas I wasn't raised on this Torah. I wasn't raised in these ways. But I'm thankful that the Most High is blessing me that I'm able to learn of them and do them and teach them to the next generation and keep it going. So I just want to say that. I mean, it's a blessing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Not everybody has this. Not everybody's walking according to this.
Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, I guess for now we will be done.
All right. Good luck.